Good evening, everyone. Okay. Today we have quite a lot to cover. I want to look at at least units 6 and 7. So that's quite a lot. There's no grammar for 10, so we don't need to worry about that next week. We need to do at least units 6 and 7 today. Before we begin, does anyone have any questions about anything? I was very happy with the test results from yesterday. You all did very well. So if there's no questions, I guess we'll just begin.
Prof, excuse me, I have one question.
Is it Lou?
About the essays. About the essays.
Okay.
Yeah, you told me that the essay is optional, right?
The 4th of July essay is optional.
And the other essays that have other topics.
That is compulsory.
Oh, yeah. I have to do this, right?
You have a choice of the 4 topics. Do 1. It should be about 250 to 300 words. And I need it before next Monday.
Yeah, thanks. But those essays aren't optional.
No, they're not optional. The only optional essay is the 4th of July essay.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Anyone else? No? Okay,
no, teacher.
We'll begin then. Okay, the first thing we need to talk about are the conjunctions in Unit 6. We'll do this quite quickly and try to do it by past. Okay. Okay. So the first thing we see in Unit 6 are these correlative conjunctions. They're called something else in the platform, but basically they are 2 words that work together to connect 2 parts of a sentence. Okay, so correlative conjunctions are conjunctions that come in pairs. So there are 2 words or 2 little phrases. You have to use both of them in different places in a sentence to make them work. They get their name from the fact that they work together, cooperate, coexist, and relate one sentence element to another. Correlative conjunctions include pairs such as both and, either or, neither nor, not but, and not only but also. We're going to focus at the moment on these 3 here. They're the main ones in the platform. So, it's bigger. So either and or either or. We can say either or either. It's your choice. So I want either the cheesecake or the chocolate cake. So for example, you go to a restaurant, you have a dessert. You want this one, the cheesecake, or you want this one, the chocolate cake. You have a choice of two. Yeah, you will have cheesecake or you will have chocolate cake. So you will have either the cheesecake or the chocolate cake. If you are greedy, you can have the cheesecake and the chocolate cake. So we'll have both the cheesecake and the chocolate cake. Remember, both means the two things. Whether and or isn't in the platform. But remember, whether is the same as if. It's a more formal way of saying if. So in this statement, I didn't know whether you'd want the cheesecake or the chocolate cake, so I got both. Neither and nor is in the platform, and neither and nor is the opposite of either or. Neither is the same as not either, and nor is the same as not or. So this means instead of wanting either the cheesecake or the chocolate cake, so one or the other, we're saying we don't want the cheesecake and we don't want the chocolate cake. So you don't want neither the cheesecake nor the chocolate cake. No problem. So this is the opposite. Neither nor is the opposite of either or. And because neither and nor are already negative, we don't need any more negative words. Not only, but also, I think this is in the platform, so I'll eat them both. Not only the cheesecake, but also the chocolate cake. So this is when we're saying it won't just be this one. It will also be the other one. And not and but, I'm not sure this is in the platform. I don't think it is. This is quite a formal way of making a statement. So I see you're in the mood not for desserts. It's just the same as saying, I see that you're not in the mood. It's just a different way of expressing that. But this is pretty formal and we won't see this in the platform. Some other ones which are useful are as, something as. So when we use an adjective with as to make a comparison between two things. When we have it negative, not as something as, then we're saying the two things that we are comparing are different. They are not equal. So bowling isn't as fun as skeet shooting. So in this same sentence, we're saying that skeet shooting is more fun than bowling. If we have a negative, if we remove the negative, if we have a positive statement, bowling is as fun as skeet shooting, then we're saying that they are equal. So bowling and skeet shooting are both equally fun. These, don't worry about these two. As many as. This is when we're talking about the amount of something. So it works similarly to as something as, but we're always talking about quantities because we're using many. If we have a non-countable noun, then we could use as much. But most of the time we'll be using it for countable nouns. So there are as many curtains as there are windows. So here we're saying that there are an equal number of curtains as there are windows. So if there are 10 curtains, there are 10 windows. If we make this negative, there aren't as many curtains as there are windows. It means there are more windows. So perhaps there are 10 windows, but only 8 curtains. And that's if we have a negative. No sooner, we won't use here, but rather and than is a useful one. It's expressing a preference of one thing over another. So she'd rather play the drums than sing. So she prefers to play the drums than she does to sing. And we can use this with anything. Any two things or any two actions. So I'd rather play soccer than cricket. I'd rather go to the beach than the mountains. I'd rather coffee than tea. Okay. I think we'll try this one. And we'll quickly try to look at these and complete them. Okay. So either and or is a choice of two things. You will do one thing or the other thing. Okay? We can remember because it's something or something. So with or we use either. If there are two things that we don't want to do or don't want to have, then we use neither nor. If there are two things that we have and we want to do both, we want to do them both equally, then we use both and. Not only also is similar to this, but we're saying that it's quite surprising, or we are emphasizing that we are doing both. So yes, but also. Not only also is when we are giving a surprising opinion or a surprising fact, and it's largely used negatively. So these are all in the platform, but whether or is not. So if we come to a whether and all, I will complete that. Okay. Okay, sorry, I'm going quite quickly because I need to get this kind of explained. All the grammar sheets are in the shared folder. So you'll find them all there. Okay. So number one, could I come over at something 3, something 4 o'clock? Asked Joan. Okay, so Joan is asking about a choice. there are two options. So which pair will we be using for this? Well, we can surmise that this word here is going to be or. It can't be and, because you can't come over at 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock. You can't come over at 3 nor 4 o'clock. That doesn't make any sense. You can't say I come over at 3 also 4 o'clock. So the only conjunction here can be or. So that means that we have to use either. Could I come over at either 3 or 4 o'clock? Okay, number 2, we're joining these adjectives. Torn, dirty. So the teacher refused to mark his work because his book was something torn, something dirty. So what do you think? Anyone?
Both and I and.
Both and, yeah. So we are joining the two things, torn, dirty. So the book was torn and dirty. So we need to use both. So both means the two things, or two people, or two whatever. But the main thing is it was torn and dirty. We can't use or because it doesn't make sense. We can't say it was torn or dirty. We can't say torn also dirty. So torn and dirty. I really need a holiday. But something in Spain, something France. Okay? Remember, but expresses a different opinion, a different part of an opinion. So this is positive, I really need a holiday, but, so this is going to be a negative idea. So which of our pairs is negative?
Neither.
Neither, yeah. So neither in Spain. And what goes with neither?
Nor.
No. Neither in Spain nor France. Mm-hmm.
Nor.
This one is kind of conditional. So I'm going to fish tomorrow, but this one uses whether it rains or shines. This is a phrase, rains or shines, which means that it doesn't matter if the weather is good or the weather is bad. It doesn't matter if it rains, it doesn't matter if the sun shines. We also use the phrase come rain or shine, which is very similar. So basically they're saying, I'm going to go fishing tomorrow. It doesn't matter if it rains, or it doesn't matter if it's a good, nice day. Okay, something did he borrow a lot of money from us? He something refused to pay back a single cent.
He?
Remember, I mentioned that one is used for when you really can't believe something, but you're saying that this happened and this happened, and I can't believe it. It's so bad.
Right.
No? So in this case, we're going to say not only. Not only did he borrow a lot of money from us,
Did he borrow?
not only did he borrow a lot of money from us, he also refused to pay back a single cent. So we're saying, I can't believe he did this. He did this. It's a terrible thing. Not only we're being very strong in our opinion, in our statement, he also refused to pay back a single cent. So he did this. It was very bad. But he also did this. We'll go to number 9 or 10. The children at the center can something hear, something speak. Okay, so we have these two verbs that we need to join. Hear, speak. So, are we going to use or and?
Neither.
Neither. Yeah. So,
The children at the center can neither hear nor
they can neither hear nor speak. So I said that neither and nor are both negative words. They mean not, either and not or. So they cannot hear and they cannot speak. They can neither hear nor speak. She employs a maid to do the cooking, washing for her family. So you have the two things. The maid does the cooking and the maid does the washing.
But.
This word first.
And.
And. So this one is going to be, remember the two things?
But.
Both. Careful with the both. Both the cooking and washing. Okay, I'll make this one be the last one. It's half past. We have enough spices for only one type of curry. We can cook chicken curry, mutton curry. So we have a choice. We can only cook one type. So it's this type.
either.
So this word is
We can cook either
chicken curry
either chicken curry or
mutton curry. Yeah. Mutton is from sheep. Can't remember. What is it in? Okay. So I'll leave this. There is a few more examples to complete and another one. I'll leave that on the shared file. And there's another explanation on a web page here. That's the correlative conjunction. So we're just looking to see how we can compare the two things. If it's both of them, if it's this one or this one, if it's not this one and not this one. So we just need to decide which ones we need. So like I mentioned, it's easier to look at the second part of the pair if it's going to be an or an and then work back. Okay. The second part of the of Unit 6 are these short answers. And I did this for my group last week. So I've separated them into different groups. Okay. So hope. These things translate almost identically to Spanish. So I hope so, I hope not. Espero que sí, espero que no. So if you have a question such as, is Barbara coming to the party? And you really want Barbara to come to the party, we can answer with, I hope so. I hope Barbara comes. Is Barbara coming to the party? I don't like Barbara, so I hope not. Do to is used when we agree with something, when we agree with a statement. So I really like pizza. I do too. Be careful to make the do part agree with the subject. So if you're talking about someone else, third person, for example, I really like pizza, so does Mary. Okay, so make the do agree. Or we can use a shorter answer, like me too, her too, us too. Here's an example of the third person. Sharon speaks French. Mike does too. It's the way of saying also. So Mike does too. Mike also speaks French. I guess so means that we don't know 100% if something is true or if something is going to happen, but we are quite sure that it probably will. So it looks like it's going to rain. I guess so. So it can be used to respond to statements and be used to respond to questions. Are you going shopping tomorrow? I guess so. I'm not 100% positive that I will go shopping, but I think it's likely. And the opposite of I guess so is I guess not. And again, we can use I guess not to respond to a statement or a question. So I don't think the bus is coming. I guess not. Or a question, will you be playing football if it continues to rain? I guess not. The next short response is, I'm afraid not. And this isn't the same kind of afraid when you are afraid of ghosts or afraid of spiders. It doesn't mean you're frightened or scared. It's just quite a formal way of giving a response or a statement which is quite negative, or that you don't think the other person is going to like too much, or you are sorry to say something. It's almost like apologizing in a lot of ways. So do you have Bill's number? I'm afraid not. It's like saying, I'm sorry, I don't. Another way this afraid is used is when we give bad news. So I'm afraid the hotel will remain shut for the next 3 weeks. I'm afraid your uncle has passed away. Okay, so it's when we give bad news or news that we don't think the other person will like. I think so can be used with a lot of things. Statements, questions. If you believe something is true, then we use I think so, or I don't think so. So shall we eat Chinese food tonight? I think so. So yes, it's a good idea. Is she Spanish? I think so. Again, we're not really 100%, but we are quite confident. And I don't think so is the opposite. Do you think she likes him? I don't think so. A lot of the time when you're asking someone's opinion, you will start the question with, do you think? And a lot of the time the responses will be, I think so, I don't think so. Another way of saying I think so, which is more formal and more emphatic, is I think not. But this will only be used really in very formal situations, or when friends are joking together, or if you watch movies which are set in the past, or have like rich people or powerful people, and they will say, I think not, instead of saying, I don't think so. So if you watch movies about war or about the Victorian times or anything like that, you will hear, I think not, when people have a disagreement. Okay, so that's the final part of Unit 6. These short answers. I'll find an exercise that you can do and add it to the document. Okay, does anyone have any questions about these short answers? They're quite self-explanatory. They're very similar to Spanish. Apart from I think, I'm afraid not. Creo que sí. Espero que sí. Espero que no. Yo también. They're all pretty much the same as Spanish. Any questions? No? Wakey, wakey. Okay. Next. Unit 7. Unit 7, we have mixed conditionals. Okay, so before we've seen the second conditional and the third conditional. These are both unreal conditionals. They are imagined situations and imagined results. With the second conditional, we have an imagined situation in the present and the imagined result in the present. And in this we use the if and the past simple and the would and the base form of the verb. So if I had $1 million, I would buy a mansion on the beach. So even though we are using the past simple and would, it's a situation, an imaginary situation. In the third conditional, we are talking about an imaginary situation in the past and the imaginary result that would have occurred following the first action. So if I had studied medicine, I would have moved to Paris. And in this we have the if clause with the past perfect and I would have in the past participle. Basically the present perfect. These are a couple of examples from the platform. Well, if you had been listening earlier, John, you would know the answer now. So, whereas this talks about an imagined situation now and the imagined result now, and this talks about the imaginary situation in the past and the imaginary result in the past, the mixed conditionals take part of the imaginary situation now and mix it with an imaginary situation in the past. Or an imaginary situation in the past and the result that would be the truth now. So the teacher says, well, if you had been listening earlier, John, if you had been listening. So here we have the past perfect conditional. So it's part of this conditional. But the result, you would know the answer now, which is from the second, the would and the base form. He wouldn't have entered. So here we have this part here. he thought he could win, which is this if and the past simple. He thought. If they hadn't stolen the money, this is from here, they wouldn't be spending the next 20 years in prison. That's from here. The imaginary situation in the present. So the mixed conditional takes parts of the different conditionals and mixes them. So it's pretty simple, as long as we can identify what tense we're using, whether we're looking to the present or the future. So, where is the thing? Okay, this is a more thorough explanation. So mixed conditional sentences combine two different conditional patterns. So all of those examples before with the mixed second and third, and the mixed third and second. It's also very common to use the mixed first conditionals. Remember, the first conditional is an if. If something happens, something else will happen in the future. And we can also use different modals. Can, may, and might. But we usually use it with will. Okay. Now this isn't in our platform, but we can have a quick look, because it might pop up again. It's simpler than the others. So if you give me some money, I can buy some milk. It's simple. We have a present situation and the result, the possible result, using can. If I finish my homework, may I go out with my friends? So I'm saying if I do this, again, may I do this? Just asking permission. If you switch the photocopier on and off again, it should work. So here we're using should to say that something is likely to happen, something is going to be the consequence. Okay. First conditional sentences can also use going to as well as will. Remember, will is the future simple, and going to is another way of describing the future action. So if plus the present simple, going to plus the verb in the infinitive. So if you don't get ready soon, we're going to be late. So all of these things are pretty self-explanatory. It's kind of better not to use, not to think about the grammar too much, and just use common sense. The present continuous and going to can also be used in the if clause. So if you're going to the shop, can you buy me some cola? If you're going to pay him, make sure you get a receipt. The present perfect may also appear in the if clause. If you've finished your work, you can go home. So it's saying if you've experienced this, if you've completed this, you can do this. But really we're focusing on this, the mixed third and second, and the mixed second and third. So mixed third and second, this combination describes an imagined event in the past and the present result. So if plus the past perfect, would plus the verb in the infinitive. So if he had taken the medicine, he wouldn't still be sick. So he didn't take the medicine, so this is imagined because he didn't take the medicine. And this would be the present result if this were different. So he wouldn't still be sick if he'd taken the medicine. So it's just a different way of arranging the clauses. Remember, if we have if, the if clause first, we have the comma. If we have the if clause second, we don't have a comma. And the mixed second and third, this combination describes a situation which is never true and the past consequence of the situation. So if you were better at speaking in public, the presentation would have been more successful. So the person isn't good at speaking in public, they're never good at speaking in public, and the presentation was terrible, but it would have been more successful if they were better. We'll do a couple of examples here. Choose the sentence with the meaning below. James is always lazy. He failed a test last week. Okay, so he's always lazy. And he failed the test. So which one are we going to look at? If you hadn't been so lazy, you would pass that test. If you weren't so lazy, you would have passed that test. Or if you weren't so lazy, you would pass that test. So this is the present situation. This is the past situation. So we're looking for a present situation and an imagined past result. So we're going to be using the past simple and then would have and the past participle. Anyone?
Teacher, maybe number 2. If you weren't so lazy, you would have passed that test. Okay.
If you weren't so lazy, you would have passed that test. Yeah. This one isn't correct because this second clause doesn't make any sense. Not in the context. And if you weren't so lazy, you would pass the test. This is the future. You would pass the test. So it can only be the middle one. Okay. If it's something you an invoice, you should pay.
Sent is the number 3.
Number 3. Yep.
Number 1.
1.
If you send an invoice, you should pay. Which sentence is correct? If you remembered to bring a map, we wouldn't be lost now. If you'd remembered to bring a map, we wouldn't be lost now. If you'd remembered to bring a map, we wouldn't have been lost now.
Number 3.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Number 2, correct. Choose a sentence with the meaning below. Paul drove too fast. Now he's in trouble with the police. If Paul didn't drive too fast, he wouldn't be in trouble with the police. If Paul hadn't driven too fast, he wouldn't be in trouble with the police. If Paul hadn't driven too fast, he wouldn't have been in trouble with the police.
I believe is the number 2.
Number 2?
Number 2, Inge.
Number 2.
Number 1.
Number 2. Okay, so we're talking about the action that happened. And we're talking about if it was imaginary. So it's the opposite of what happened. So Paul drove too fast. And he got into trouble with the police. If he hadn't, he wouldn't be. If you're something the photocopier off, I guess that's on, off and on again, it sometimes works.
Number 1.
Turn it.
Number 2.
Number 2.
No, is number 3.
Number 3.
On the turn.
So if you turn the photocopier off and on again, it sometimes works. If something late, can you turn everything off before you go? So if you've worked late, if you're working late, or if you'll work late.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Yes.
You're working.
Yep.
Working.
If you're working. I think this would be the last one, I think. So, I don't have a degree, so I didn't get the job. So if I had a degree, I would have got that job. If I had a degree, I would have got that job. And if I'd had a degree, I would get that job.
Of number 3.
Number 3. Any other guesses? So I don't have a degree. So we imagine.
Sorry is the number 1 because in the half.
It's an imaginary situation. So it's number 2. If I had a degree. So I think you had the right thinking about the past result. If we imagine a situation in the present.
Okay, so sorry.
Simple past. Okay, I'll leave the rest of the questions and this website and all the rest of them on the documents in the shared folder. Does anyone have any questions about anything before we go?
No, teacher, don't have questions in this moment.
Okay. I'll just remind you of the essay. Okay, so the essay should be 250 to 300 words. You have until next Monday to send it to me. If you want to make a plan, then you can send it to me to check before Monday, and you need to choose only one of those topics. Okay, any questions? No?
No, teacher.
No, teacher.
Okay, well, thank you all for coming.
No, teacher.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all for coming. I will see you again.
See ya.
Okay, have a good evening and a good week. Remember, if you have any problems, just email me. Bye-bye.
Right.
You, bye, teacher.